Like, what? I'm 37. How is that even possible?
So we had nothing to go by. We never thought about talking to our moms about it. And then we hit our 30s and we started experiencing perimenopause.
Your next favorite podcast pick starts now. Here's the Professor and Heather Ann.
Welcome to the Professor and Heather Ann. Although we don't have all the answers, we hope we can encourage and excite you. We're here sharing our lives to inspire you to make the most of the second half of your life.
Well, today I'm actually very excited about our topic. It is something that every woman goes through in her lifetime, but it's also something that we don't talk about very often. I've been finding out that the last couple of years, more and more women are talking about it, but we're here to talk about menopause and the health issues that go along with that. And until you actually start to hit perimenopause or menopause, I don't think we fully understand just how that totally affects every aspect of our life. We also have a special guest I'm very excited to have here with us. We'll be joined by Shae Rozzi, the Fox 23 News anchor. She herself has been doing segments on the news about menopause and how that's affected her with another group of women. So I'm very excited to hear more about that. But let's talk about menopause. So I actually went medically induced menopause because about my late 30s, I had a full hysterectomy. And even though they talked to me briefly about it and told me what would happen, they didn't really tell me about all the symptoms that were going to happen or what to anticipate. I was fortunate enough to at least there's an estradiol patch, and I was on that for a few years until I became allergic to the adhesive. And then all of a sudden, they just told me everything's fine. I don't need to be on any more hormone replacement. It probably wasn't good for me. All the side effects, all the things. It could cause heart problems and breast cancer and all of the bad things that went along with it. And I was like, okay, great. But I struggled for many years with sleep, energy. The weight really started coming on, and that was my biggest thing. I was very fortunate. I'd never had a weight problem before, but as soon as I hit menopause and the weight just, no matter what I did, no matter how much I worked out, no matter how much I ate, didn't eat, whatever I tried, it just would not work for me.
And so this was 20 years ago. Right?
20 years ago, exactly.
And these effects, they're still with you.
They're still with me. It's been the last 5 years that I started doing more research on my own, trying to figure out why am I not losing the weight. I've had metabolic testing. I do hard workouts. I work out with trainers. I track my food. I track my macros. I do all of this stuff and still was tired. And I've noticed over the last few years, more brain fog has happened. And all I was told for years and years is, oh, your labs are fine. Or my doctor would be like, do you want to go on antidepressants? No, I don't want to go on antidepressants. I'm depressed because of what my body's doing to me, but I'm not depressed. Mm-hmm. So that was very frustrating. And it's been really nice to see the last few years more women talking about it. I kind of been joking around that it's because the Gen Xers are going into menopause and we're used to just saying what we want.
Yeah. Not just suffering in silence.
No, we want to find out what's happening to us and what's happening to our bodies.
So for me, I've felt like I've needed to accommodate how sometimes you have low energy, and some of this at first, because it was something I didn't expect, and could be, frankly, a source of annoyance, like when we would have some event that we would have already bought the tickets for, and then you would cancel it at the last minute because you just didn't have the energy to deal with going to whatever it was.
That's also my ADHD. I just was done peopling. So
yes.
It was just like, I've had enough. I've done enough peopling for the week. I do not want to go out. I just want to put my pajamas on and stay in the house and not be bothered. So that is some of that, which also I was diagnosed late in life. So I was diagnosed with ADHD about 10 years ago when I finally said something to my doctor, because especially with women, we're just good at hiding those things and overcompensating in other areas. But I was finding myself that I couldn't do that I just couldn't concentrate, that I wasn't completing tasks, and it was starting to affect my business. So I needed to figure out what that was. So I was on ADHD medicine for a couple of years, but then I just didn't like the side effects of that either. So it helped for a little bit, but again, it's just a journey, and doctors just won't tell us what our bodies are doing. And it comes to a point where you just feel like your body hates you, is really what it comes down to, is like, what did I do to you so when I was younger so much that you just hate me at this age? So
yes, but I've gotten to be, I'm okay with it. If the event's canceled, we're just going to get in our pajamas. That's okay.
Or we'll just go to dinner by ourselves, or I just want to spend time with you. Yeah. That sounds good, right? So the biggest thing that has driven me crazy for many years is you go in, you get labs, and you're expecting your doctor to do the right labs. You're explaining to them how you feel, and then you get the labs and they come back and say, well, everything's fine. It's like, but everything is not fine. Can we go deeper? There's no reason to go to do any different labs. These are fine. And I just actually assumed that they did those hormone tests every single year. And I just recently found that out in the last couple of months. They do not. I hadn't had my hormones checked in over 3 years. And that was completely shocking to me, that I'm an older woman. Shouldn't that just automatically be done with your regular, you go every year to your doctor and you get a wellness checkup and all of that. Isn't that part of your wellness, is trying to find out where your hormones are? Because with all the years that I've been doing a lot of different research and stuff, your hormones play a huge role on the rest of your body.
So sex hormones affect a whole lot more things than just sexual traits. They're involved in the nervous system. They're involved in the metabolic system and so forth. And so this brings up, so they tell you your labs are normal. So normal for a postmenopausal woman is having very low levels of estrogen. So that's normal in the sense of like statistically normal, but it's having such low estrogen has all sorts of effects, right?
It does, and it's not just the estrogen, it's the testosterone. So one of the things I've learned over the last 6 months is women who play sports, who are very active when they're younger, have a tendency to have higher testosterone. So when you're younger and you're going through puberty in your 20s and 30s, you already have high testosterone. So then when your testosterone starts dropping, which it does in menopause, then that really starts affecting you as well. And I just recently learned through my labs that my testosterone has drastically dropped in the last 3 years. And so it's like, wouldn't it have been nice to know that? And I just feel like the medical establishment just likes us to feel like we're going crazy. So, what I would like to do is go ahead and bring in Shae. And I would like her to share with us what she's been doing, what her journey is. And welcome, Shae. Thank you very much for coming on our podcast.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Joe, for having me. I was so excited when I was invited to be on your podcast to talk about menopause, because I'm sitting here across from you at the table nodding my head like, yes, yes, preach, sister, preach, because you're exactly right. So many women don't know what's going on with their bodies. And one of the things I've learned working at Fox 23 News and doing a recent series on menopause stories, and then sitting down with the other women of Fox 23 to have an open conversation about our personal experiences to help the next generation. The young journalist who interviewed us, Morgan Martin, our weekend anchor, she's in her 20s. And Michelle, Jana, Sunny, and I are all like right at 50, a little above, a little below, but right at that 50 mark. And so for Morgan, she was so grateful to listen to all of our experiences, to learn from us so that she is empowered and can ask these questions whenever the transition starts happening to her or any of her friends. And one of the things for me, I hit menopause at 37, and I had no idea until I was in my second pregnancy. At that point, our first daughter had, she's already 5, turning 6 years old. We're like, okay, great. Well, now if we have 2 kids, we'll have college paid for. We can start again. You know, you get a car, you can start again, all the things, thinking financially. And we were just a few weeks in, you know, you don't really know you're pregnant until a few weeks in. So just beyond that, so I'd say maybe a month or more in, where we were just starting to tell our immediate family that we were pregnant again. And then I just had one of the craziest days at work, where this was when I was working in North Carolina, and it was running around reporting all day, you know, news gathering and everything. And then coming back to the station to fill in on the anchor desk. And like I said, it was just like meeting those last minute deadlines, and then like, oh gosh, you know, I got to freshen up and, you know, go out for anchoring. And I just happened to use the ladies' room one last time before going out to the set. And I won't be too descriptive, but I knew when I went to the bathroom, something was wrong. I was like, okay, well, it's like just minutes before the newscast starts. I can't bail. And so I just had to like block that out of my mind, anchor the news, run my report, etc. And then after the newscast was over and I was driving home that night, I first called one of my girlfriends who had had a miscarriage and explained what had happened. And she said, it sounds like you've had a miscarriage. Call your OBGYN and schedule an appointment as soon as possible so they can, you know, run tests, make sure you're okay and everything else. And I called my husband and told him that too. It was weird. You know, I didn't want to call him first to say, hey, this is what happened, but I don't know what it is. So that's why I called my girlfriend first and then my husband to explain what had happened. And then I went to the doctor and she said, well, it sounds like you were pregnant. You know, you had the positive pregnancy test. Your body was experiencing changes for pregnancy. And it does sound like you had a miscarriage. When she started running blood tests and hormone tests, she's like, you're postmenopausal. Your FSH levels, follicle stimulating hormone levels, like they're, you know, beyond, like you're already like menopause, postmenopausal. I'm like, what? I'm 37. How is that even possible? And then come to find out, both my mom and my sister hit menopause at an early age as well. But you don't think to ask those questions, because I really didn't feel like I was experiencing the symptoms at that time. But then reflecting back, I was like, oh, well, maybe I was.
See, and I find that very interesting because I come from a family of women. My mom had 5 sisters. I had a lot of female cousins and stuff. Pretty much almost all of my mom's sister, including my mom, all had hysterectomies in their 20s. Mm-hmm. So we had nothing to go by. We never thought about talking to our moms about it. Mm-hmm. And then we hit our 30s and we started experiencing, my sisters and I and my cousins, perimenopause. And we would bring it up to our doctors and they would just be like, well, that's just not possible. You're too young. Mm-hmm. So why is it that you think that you didn't talk to your sister and your mom about it?
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I guess I just really didn't think about it at the time. I mean, I'd have maybe a few night sweats, but working in news, it's always stressful. You're always running. There's like this adrenaline rush. Some days are very emotional. Some days are very challenging. And some days you get to do the rewarding story. So, I mean, truly that in itself brings your emotions all over the place. So part of it, you know, you may just be thinking, oh, it's just my job. You know, I'm just a little stressed, or maybe I'm overworked, overheated, exhausted, and, you know, night sweats and things like that. Maybe I'm just stressed. So I didn't really think about it at the time. Until the doctor, you know, told me that, no, you're in menopause. You're more toward the postmenopausal level. And, but I was just baffled by that. But then a lot of stuff started making sense. Now, in terms of having any more children, the doctor talked to us about different options, but my husband and I were always of the mindset, God gives you what you can handle. And maybe we were only meant to have one child, but that is not to discourage any couple out there from exploring your options if you want to grow your family, because there are indeed different options for you. But just over time, I've noticed, and what my husband noticed too, be like, wow, like sometimes, you know, you'll just kind of lash out when you wouldn't normally. And we call it the Cobra strike, like because you don't see it. I
like that. That's a great explanation.
Yes, you can be like, "That's the Cobra strike." Joe, you can say that to Heather. You're like, "Oh, where did that come from?" And so sometimes it's kind of mood swings, and then other times, you know, the lack of interest in the bedroom. Like, where did that come from? You know, because when you first meet, let's face it, you're essentially all over each other, and then you're like, "Wait a second, well, this stinks. Is this how it's going to be?" So it's also having that open communication with your spouse, with your partner too. And just like, this is what I'm feeling. And, you know, when I first started talking about hormone replacement therapy, when my OBGYN talked about it, not right then, but a few years down the road, we had news reports saying like, oh, there's studies out showing HRT can lead to a greater risk of breast cancer. And one of the challenges working in news is you essentially while you become very educated, knowing a little about a lot, you also become paranoid in a sense, because you see that 1 in a million, 1 in 100,000 chance of something happening happening to someone every day, because that's what you're reporting on. So when you report on these studies of like HRT, hormone replacement therapy, potentially increasing your risk of breast cancer, I'm like, well, I don't want to have breast cancer. You know, I don't want to have another health issue to deal with.
Correct.
But my OBGYN did say like, but wait, stop. Don't just go with the surface report on that and what's, you know, circulated in local and national media and what those so-called health experts are saying. Like, really look at the research. She said, I've read the full report, and I'm telling you, most of the women who took part in that study, they were older to begin with, 60s or older. So they already had an increased risk of breast cancer. She's like, this is where you should have. And one of the things I'll tell your listeners today is where you should have your own conversation with your doctor, because she had recommended it to me at the time years ago, but I was too nervous about it. And now, as we've recently reported, the FDA is looking to remove the black box warning label off of hormone replacement therapy and saying the benefits outweigh the risks, especially when younger women are being diagnosed with menopause and suffering from the lack of hormones and all these changes, night sweats, mood swings, brain fog, weight gain, all of these things. Doesn't it sound like fun, Joe? Don't you want to experience it?
The aches and pains, your joints just hurt.
Everything. In fact, from our Fox 23 conversation on menopause, our morning anchor, Michelle Lynn, was saying she had frozen shoulder. She couldn't lift her arm parallel to the ground. And her doctor had said, oh, it's probably because you were roller painting, you know, on your walls, or you were doing yard work. She's like, you don't know me. I do neither one of those things. Like, there's no way that's the cause. And then she started doing more research, and she found that with the lack of estrogen, you know, you lose it during menopause. Estrogen helps with the elasticity. And so as you start to lose estrogen, it also can lead to more inflammation. And so that can also be a cause for frozen shoulder. And I had an aha moment during our conversation. So I was like, oh my gosh, I've been dealing with shoulder issues. I went to physical therapy a year ago for it. And then she was telling me about this soft wave therapy that's more for stem cells for her shoulder that worked. And so I've started doing that since our conversation, which is helping me where I can now like stretch more, reach higher than I was able to, because I didn't realize it was menopause and the lack of hormones and estrogen keeping me from truly healing my shoulder.
But you had to do that research on your own.
Yes.
Your doctor didn't just say, oh, this could be it. And that's what I find, and the one reason why I wanted to have you on and have this as a conversation is that I feel like we're just out there researching our own. Now, I do think you need to do that.
Yes.
Everybody's different. Everybody's body's different. Things affect me differently. Even my doctor will sometimes say, well, I'm not going to give you that or talk to you about that because I know you're going to find an alternative. So since you've been doing these segments, what are some of the questions that I'm assuming women are writing in, asking questions? What do you think is some of the biggest questions that you are being asked?
Well, I think you brought up a very interesting point with your own personal experience, having to have a full hysterectomy. As you mentioned, you were told just briefly, oh, you'll start to experience menopause symptoms, but you weren't walked through what does that mean for you? What does that mean for you on the daily? So if you start experiencing this, that's what this is from. You start experiencing this, like the hot flashes or hair loss, brain fog, and things like that. And maybe hormone replacement therapy is better for you having that at a younger age because you shouldn't have to suffer for so many years. When we started doing these segments, it happened to be at the same time the American Heart Association, which I partner with quite often, was doing a speaker series on menopause. And I met a woman named Dr. Carrie Anthony, and it's yourmenopausemd.com. And she said it wasn't until she started going through menopause as a doctor that she realized, oh my gosh, I was not taught any of this in medical school. And that was one of the things we learned in our reports is that so many doctors aren't even educated very well about menopause, even though half the population, every woman is going to go through
every woman, whether it is medically induced or whether it is natural, will go through menopause no matter what. It's just what our bodies do. And speaking about the doctors, I have been following one of the doctors as well. She wrote a book called The New Menopause and by Mary Claire Haver. And she's a doctor too. And she, all of a sudden, until she started going through it, is the exact same thing as, what have I been doing? They didn't teach me about this in medical school. I've been finding a lot of female doctors, when they're hitting menopause, the same thing is like, they didn't teach us. They didn't talk about it. And several of the doctors have even shut down their practices because it's like, I feel like I'm doing a disservice. I don't know enough myself. That I can't even necessarily, I have to treat myself first before I would be able to treat my patients. And I find that fascinating. I find that if this is something that women go through, every single woman goes through, how is it that it's not talked about? How is it that it was not taught it's not taught in medical school?
Right. Well, I hope they're listening now.
I hope so too.
And I hope there is a greater focus on it because you mentioned doctors closing down their practice. This doctor locally happened to realize that was her aha moment. If I don't know enough about it and half the population, my female patients, all of them go through it, then that needs to be the focus of my practice. So that's what she does now. And I went to her conversation that the Heart Association hosted, and you just learn so much. And also because sexual health is a big part of a healthy marriage.
Yes.
And what she explained is there are different medications that can help women. One, the hormone replacement can simply be helpful in just giving you some of your energy back and some of that interest, but also for some women, just scientifically speaking, vaginal lining thins. And for some women, sex can be painful, or just sitting down can be painful. Not even in a sexual, a situation. And so she was explaining there are so many different medications and treatments now that you can have to, have a healthy sex life once again, or just simply treat the pain that your body is going through because of all of these changes.
Because it's hard. if your body is hurting you and seems like it's fighting you, it's hard to feel sexy. So that comes through as I'm not in the mood. Because for women, it's all mind and, we have to be in the right mindset and stuff. And so I think that is a great point as well, is that just because we're getting older doesn't mean we still do not want to be intimate with our husband or our partner. And you start feeling bad. And I think that's another thing is it's not just the physical things that happen to you. It's the emotional things that you go through when you're not understanding what your body is. And when your husband's telling you, oh, you're beautiful, I love you and everything, but you're like, I don't feel that at all.
Right. And Joe, I want you to be able to come back into the conversation too, because husbands do have to be so patient. They have to be so understanding. And then the hard part is, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but I know my husband and I have talked about it too. At other stages where I was struggling, where he's like, I just feel rejected. Like, I feel like you don't want me. And it's like, no, it's not. It's like, I want you to want me.
Yes.
I'm like, I want to, and I want to want you, but oh my gosh, I can't, I'm struggling, at the time. Things are better now. Yes.
We had that. He brought that up at the first of the year.
It's something to adjust to, but this is not about me, and it's not about our relationship. It's.
But you did come at the first of the year. We've only been together for 3 years, so there was a honeymoon period. Yes, and there was a little lull at the first of the year, and he came to me and said, "Hey, is there something I've done?" Because we've openly discussed this, coming from second marriages. We try to talk about everything because we want to make sure we're not bringing in other things from our previous marriages.
So smart.
So that was something that was discussed from the very beginning of our relationship. So when at the beginning of the year is like, did I do something? Did I make you feel bad? Is there something I need to do? So
I've gotten to be I've gotten to be psychologically very, very comfortable with this.
That it's not you.
I know it's not me.
Or that I make you talk about your feelings. Because that's a whole other segment and a whole other topic as well. So, but you
it is what it is. And, you're there are some things I can do, but then some of it is just have to be accommodating to what you're feeling.
Well, and I think one of the challenges is, one of the things that I learned about this is perimenopause can last up to 10 years before you actually technically hit menopause. So for your listeners, menopause, as the doctors in the medical field describe it, it's a full year of not having a period. But all of these symptoms that we've been discussing, those you can experience for up to 10 years before you actually hit menopause. And you're like, my goodness. And oftentimes for men, when it comes to their sexual health, it might be one issue, and then they can take a pill, and within a few minutes, they're okay. And, back in the game, so to speak. But for women,
it doesn't work that way.
Right. We have all of these things from the emotions. And my main thing now has been hair loss. And so I've had to use what I would use as my gray cover-up spray. Now I got to spray it to cover. I'm like, oh my gosh, you can see my scalp. See, now I got Joe looking at my hair here. But anyway, so it's just another fun thing to deal with. And it's,
I've been dealing with the hair loss more this past year, and yeah, I fully understand. You just keep
shedding, and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to clean.
Yes.
all this hair.
You wake up in the morning, you got hair all over you. But it's interesting that you bring up the perimenopause. I actually know now that even before I had my hysterectomy, I was already in perimenopause. I have 2 boys, 9 years difference, and I was already missing periods.
Okay.
And I was actually surprised when I got pregnant with our second son. It was just like, wait a minute, hold on. I thought maybe I was going into menopause, And then after having him, it's just like, then I started having all kinds of health problems. And it's like that, it's almost like that pregnancy was against me.
Oh, gotcha.
And I did. I had a bad pregnancy and bed rest and all of that. So
early C-section, right?
Yes. He was, they knew I wasn't going to go full term the whole time. So again, I was already starting to have those and really concentrate on my health. And I truly believe, even to this day, that I was able to get pregnant because I was so obsessed with my health at that time. I was taking all the herbs. I was working out. I was really being conscious of my food and everything. So it is interesting how some women can enter perimenopause and be only in a few years start menopause, but how that can affect us even for 10 years and nobody's still talking to us about it and telling us this is what you're really going through. These are things that you can do to help. Maybe we do want to put you on some hormone replacements to help ease you into full-blown menopause.
Yeah, because you talked about being on the patch earlier.
Yes.
I am now on an estrogen pill and progesterone pill that I take each morning. And I have noticed a difference. I've definitely noticed a difference. So that has helped me. And that was all just recently. And within the last few months. And my doctor also ordered a bone scan for me because I was always told by my other doctors, as soon as I found out that I had hit menopause earlier, one of the risks is developing osteoporosis. And just this year, at the age of 50, I finally had a bone scan. And my doctor says, your back looks like the back of an 80-year-old woman. You have severe osteoporosis in your lower lumbar region, the lower part of your spine. And so I'm now on a weekly pill to help with the osteoporosis that hopefully we can help reverse it. And then I've also upped my vitamin D and calcium intake in vitamin form and hopefully help support my bones. So the main thing is, so it might be a fallen and I can't get up because I heard something's like you're at great risk for a fracture if you do fall. And so that's another thing women need to know about if you hit menopause early is listen to your doctors because, again, I hit it at 37. Here I am at the age of 50 and finally had the bone scan and I already have severe osteoporosis. I also started walking with one of those weighted vests, not too much weight because you also don't want to hurt yourself, but just something to help build up my core and build up the muscles around my spine to help support it since my spine is weak. I need to do more weightlifting too. I walk every day with my neighborhood friends. We have a little walking group, but you're also strongly encouraged in menopause and guys too, to be lifting weights. That weight bearing exercise really helps us as we get older. I do want to go back to something that you said earlier when you were testing for hormones and the doctor's like, no, you're fine. And you keep getting at the times when you would get tested since you weren't being tested for hormones every year. So yes, some notes for your viewers. When you go have your annual blood work done for your physical, ask for your hormones to be tested. Tell them to run the gamut of hormones because you want to see where you are and compared to the year prior. But also, when it comes to your hormones, what I learned from your Menopause MD, the Dr. Anthony I met, was that you could go in for testing one day and your hormones are like, oh, fine, they're at these levels. That afternoon, it could be like this. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, we'll come back next week. And you just happen to have like a high day with your hormones. So your hormones truly are fluctuating all over the place.
Yes.
Yeah. You're not just going through mood swings, but your hormones can be all over the place. So it might be a matter of when you had the test. Still worth asking to get the test, but it might be a matter of when you get the test and what your hormones are doing that day, where your doctor may be, well, I'm reading your chart, Heather, and it's fine. So I don't know,
so it could be
they need to take in everything else you're telling them.
Because I like that you're bringing that up because it could be you normally get your testing done in the morning. Maybe you need to be doing those tests in the afternoon. Know your body and how it feels in the morning and in the afternoon. I like the test for the osteoporosis. I've been having hip problems for a while, something I should probably go and check out myself. I don't believe I have had that test, or it's been quite a while since I have. The other question I have for you with all the research that you've been doing is, because you started menopause just as early as I did, one of the things I'm seeing even in the research I'm finding out is that if you haven't done any hormone replacement, a lot of times they're saying if it's been over 10 years, it's too late.
Well, this is where you should talk to your doctor because it's been 13 years for me and I just started it this year and I'm already noticing a difference.
So did you take hormone replacement
never took
when your doctor came to you and during, because you were going through a lot. You had the miscarriage, you find out that you're 37 years old and having menopause. They did not put you on any hormone replacement?
No. And I can't remember at the time if they suggested it then, but I know when we moved here to Oklahoma, it was now 12 years ago. I always say the lady doctor for the OBGYN.
Yes.
The first lady doctor I had here. And she was amazing, but she was the one who said, yes, I know about the research that has kept you from doing hormone replacement, but you're dealing with all these symptoms. You should really consider it because, as she mentioned, the women in the research, they were older to begin with and more likely to develop breast cancer to begin with. Now, that's not to say hormone replacement can't increase your risk of breast cancer because, again, everybody's body reacts differently.
Correct.
You watch the FDA fully tested medical commercials for whatever pharmaceutical drug, and while it may help the majority of people who take that specific medication, you'll hear, almost like when they read the fine print out loud, may cause a risk for heart attack or stroke, you may die. And so unfortunately, while there are adverse effects to some medication, they often help the majority of the people or they would not have been approved. So hormone replacement, I'm not going to say someone is not going to have an increased risk of breast cancer. I mean, my doctor did warn me, the one who just put me on the hormone replacement recently, he's like, you'll likely feel tenderness in your breast. Just pay attention to your breast health. Continue with your annual mammograms so that we can track your health. But hopefully it helps and that, it doesn't increase my risk of breast cancer in terms of the benefits outweighing the risk for now. But I don't recall the doctors when I was younger telling me to get on hormone replacement. But then as I started experiencing these stronger side effects and symptoms of menopause, that's when it was brought up. Well, you might want to try hormone replacement. But then I myself was too scared from the research out there. And then just more recently being like, okay, I'm at this age, I'm still dealing with this stuff. And now that more doctors, and now most recently, the FDA coming out saying we're going to remove that black box warning because hormone replacement should be doing more good than harm, especially for younger women who are diagnosed with menopause early.
And I just really think, again, that just goes back to the medical establishment. So whether the black box warning's there or isn't, your doctor should be following up with you, having conversation with you. And I just feel there's just... And I'm not bashing the medical establishment. We need doctors. We need them to help heal us. But I just feel with women, there's just not enough conversation.
Right. And that's where social media has really done us some good. Social media isn't always the best thing. However, because so many people now do put their life on full display and, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, that women have been sharing their symptoms. And that really has shined a light on menopause and sparked these conversations. And that's what helped us do the specials on Fox.
And these books, Dr. Haver's book, that's not the only one. There have been several books.
Just in the last year or two that have come out that have been very eye-opening. He actually, since we decided we were doing this segment, Joe's been reading the book and finding out some things. There was a few things you said, well, I didn't even know that. Because you're an anthropologist.
Yeah, so pretty much the only thinking I've done about menopause has been from an evolutionary anthropology point of view, wondering why it's a huge, well, it's not so much anymore, but for a while there was a lot of research on why humans are the only primates that have menopause. The only primates in which the female reproductive system shuts down, long before, on average, shuts down long before every other physiological system. And so there's just as a species typical trait, there's this long post-reproductive phase only for females. So there's some other mammals, certain whales, that have menopause, but no other primate does. And so this is like, I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to nerd out here on it, but why do you, because from an evolutionary point of view, it's a puzzle, like if you're not reproducing anymore, then from an evolutionary perspective, well, really there's not any point in you being alive anymore. And so what, does this have to do with elderly women or older women being able to direct more care to their grand offspring, other, or is it just like an artifact of the fact that, we live longer now than we used to?
That's true.
So that's,
yeah.
That's
I'm glad you're just not calling us whales.
Yes. But no, that's an interesting point that in all these years, doctors have never spoken to women about menopause. It was just a thing that you were expected to go through. And I do feel like women today are just like, we've had enough. We want to talk about it. We want to find out about our bodies. How can we live? Because we are living longer. So if we're living longer, then I don't want my body hating me.
Right.
And I don't want to hate my body because, that's again a whole nother topic. We're taught at a very early age. So many women grow up hating their bodies. So I feel like, especially for me, when I went through menopause, that I just really hated my body. And it was just like, why me? Why is it doing this? I know of other women that have gone through menopause and haven't gained the weight like I have. Why is my body doing this to me? And literally the last 5 years, that's what sent me on my journey is, how can I improve? What am I doing? We're doing all the things. We're taking the vitamins just like you. I'm doing the vitamin D. Found out recently my vitamin D is real low. And it's just been fascinating on how our body really works. And lacking the hormones, then that causes other issues in your body. Because you have these issues, then that causes that could deplete your hormones. So what's been the most fascinating thing that you have found about menopause? And
I think the most fascinating is simply just talking about it, because it does hit everyone differently, hits them at different ages. But I think talking about it, just like you, the two of you are being more open in your marriage now and communication now, I think that's what couples need to do. That's what girlfriends need to do too. And that's what we did in that Fox 23 News special, was just share our experiences, because what I may go through, I may have information to help you. You may have information to help me, like Michelle was helping me with my shoulder. Jana Clark said her mom didn't really experience much of menopause symptoms. So she had no idea what Jana was talking about when Jana shared what she was going through. She's our investigative reporter. And so for her, she felt really alone. And so I think the biggest takeaway is really start paying attention to your body. Now that we are putting it all out there, when you start experiencing these symptoms, pay attention to your body. Start asking your doctor what is best for you. And if your doctor is still like keeping you in the dark, then find a different doctor. Yeah.
I cannot stress that enough. Yeah. Go to another doctor. And if that doctor still won't listen to you, go to another doctor. And find one that's really going to sit down and have a conversation with you.
Yes, because one of the women I interviewed for the story, along with the doctor who was the guest speaker, she was saying, well, I found out what I was taking wasn't working for me. And then I got on a whole other treatment. And then it's like, see, I'm not crazy. And, all these symptoms that she was having, it was the newer medication was helping her and getting her right back to her normal self. Because menopause also leads to divorce, which is crazy when you think about it, and so heartbreaking and sad. But we just talked about how it can affect your sexual health. We talked about how it can affect your mood. If you suddenly have these like find yourself having the cobra strike and you're lashing out at your husband, like, you are not the same person I married. Like, what is wrong with my wife? And so it can lead to major issues. And for couples who don't talk about it and don't get the help they need, it can lead to divorce, which is so sad. So thank you so much for having me on today to share all this. So I hope we do empower more women and more couples to be like, okay,
and more couples.
This is part of life.
I really do want to stress that as well, is that men are in the dark as well. It's affecting us, it's affecting our bodies, but it's hard to explain to your husband or your partner that my body just hurts today. I really just am fighting with my body and my mind just doesn't seem to be where it needs to be. It's very hard for them to understand. Now, they do go through hormonal changes and everything as well, and we're going to have a segment more about that because we need to be talking about that as well. Just as much as the doctors don't talk to us, men don't talk about their physical health and the things that they're going through. But I think it's important that we're opening up those conversations to our husbands, to our partners. I think it's very important that we open up the conversations just with younger women.
Yes.
What can they be doing at an early age in their 20s and 30s that can help them possibly ease into menopause a little bit easier?
And I think also if you're planning to have a family, and now so many women, in the workplace and climbing the corporate ladder and everything else, so many women wait to have children. So, but if children are in your future, then start talking to your doctor early for the FSH level testing and any other pregnancy hormone testing, things like that, so that you hear that biological clock is ticking, Marissa Torme,
And unfortunately it is for us.
It truly is. It's not just, a punchline in a movie. And so if you are a working woman, and even if you're not, but if you're, possibly delaying pregnancy and having a family, make sure you talk to your doctor and see where you are to be like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be waiting much longer.
That is a great recommendation. I highly recommend that for all young women to start having that conversation as early as possible. Because again, like you said, a lot of women are delaying childbirth and they're waiting until their late 30s, early 40s to have children, and that could possibly be hindering their possibilities of having a positive outcome. Well, we really appreciate you coming on. Do you have any other parting words or...
Oh, I just say take control of your health, get answers. The internet is your friend, but don't believe everything you read.
Because you can go down a slippery slope there.
You can go down a rabbit hole. But write down your questions, because then once you finally get into your doctor's office, you may forget all the questions that you have. Keep track of your symptoms. What are you experiencing? Are there certain times of day? Is having too much caffeine leading to something?
And certain times of the month, even though you're not having your cycle, that still does affect you as well. So certain times of the month can be worse than others.
Yeah, just open up notes on your phone, keep track. And then so when you go to your doctor, you can have the conversation and make sure you get all your questions answered. And if that doctor is not answering your questions or making you feel comfortable or making you feel stupid and not validating your concerns, you need to find another doctor. It's okay to break up with the doctor.
It is okay to break up with the doctor. I cannot stress that enough. If you are walking away from your appointment and just, because I know I've done it myself, go just sit in my car and cry because it's like, well,
they didn't hear me.
Right. They didn't hear me. He didn't give me any solutions. Maybe I truly am going crazy. Maybe I do need to be on antidepressants. I know that happened to me quite a few times. And truly, and I love my doctor, been going to him for years, but also with talking with him, I just want to say this real quick, talking with him about the weight gain and stuff, he actually had me bring a picture of when I was younger prior to my hysterectomy to see that I did not have a weight problem prior to my hysterectomy.
But doesn't that just tell you that the hysterectomy and all the hormones and everything else is playing into your weight gain that you need treatment now? I was like, I'm seeing reverse effect here.
It was like I had to prove to him that this wasn't something that I had been dealing with my entire life or my adult life. It's like I had to prove. But I still continued going to him afterwards going, okay, well, here's a picture. I was happy to show them the pictures. Yeah, look it. I, was a size 0 when I was a teenager, and I was a size 5 after having my first son. So, hey, this is great. But
didn't trust your account of yourself.
He did not trust, I want you to write down everything you're eating and stuff. So again, my recommendation, like your recommendation, is if your doctor is not listening to you, if you're leaving the doctor's office and you're in tears and just not believing anybody's listening to you, or maybe you are going crazy, definitely seek out another doctor.
Absolutely. And my blood test showed that I was borderline diabetic. I had gestational diabetes with my pregnancy, and then just recently had, I was right at the line basically with my A1C and a higher blood sugar. So I am taking one of the diabetic weight loss injections that is FDA approved for weight loss. And it has helped me lose about 30 pounds so far this year. It just turns off that hunger voice in your brain. That's how it's worked for me. I don't know if it's more successful for me because I'm kind of wired more like a diabetic, and it helps with insulin resistance, but that's what helped me. Again, something to talk to your doctor about. I'm not pushing anything on anyone, but it's just helping to inform other people of there are options.
There are options.
And if something is not working, if you get on a medication and you don't feel well, then you need to talk to your doctor about stopping it.
Correct. So as much as don't suffer through that.
Don't to get treatment if it's not working. Do not suffer through it. Talk to your doctor right away, so you're not taking something that is going to hurt you or continue to hurt you.
And I cannot stress that enough as well, because I'm on this journey of trying to find out what hormones and stuff work for me, and one did not. And so it's a continual thing. Everybody's body's different. Just listen to your body is the biggest recommendation that we have.
Absolutely.
Well, again, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for joining us.
Obviously, we can have more and more conversations about this. We can continue longer, but we hope that we've brought some great information, and that our listeners, and we hope that women will go out and talk to their doctors more, talk to their husbands and partners more. Shae, again, thank you for coming on, your vulnerability, your leadership, being willing to talk to here on our podcast, but also to your audience on Fox 23 News. I really think the more we talk about it, the more women that we can definitely help, and hopefully not just get women to be talking about it, but doctors paying attention and wanting to help their clients, their patients more. So,
that's my hope also. Yes. Thank you both so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We're going to have more guests, and we'll be having more episodes on this topic because, again, I think the more information that we can get out there, the more women we can help. So join us here each week, my friend. You're sure to get a smile. From lessons learned to mishaps, the adventures go on for miles here on The Professor and Heather Ann.
Thank you for listening to The Professor and Heather Ann.